What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Future Knight Eric here, and I'm coming at you with yet again another deck profile. And today we're going to be covering a deck that I was very excited to get together and to play, and that is Labrynth. If you're a long-time fan of the channel, you'll know that I'm a big fan of these Trap Fiend stun decks, and of course Labrynth falls exactly into that category, except with the added advantage of having waifu cards and lolly cards and just absolutely stunning cards in general. What's to say about this deck? I have taken it to a couple of locals, seen some minor success, coming in second place at one, but also getting absolutely destroyed and scrubbing out at some other locals. But I can definitely confidently say that this deck is not solved yet. We do not have probably one of the most powerful cards for the deck yet, which is Lady of the Labyrinth, which is coming out in Darkwing Blast, which is basically the multi-fake of the deck. Absolutely insane card that'll definitely raise the power ceiling of this deck significantly. So until that card comes out, I don't think the deck will become quote-unquote solved, but I thought I'd give it a chance, give it my best go, and see what I could get together to show off today, and to maybe give some people who are also thinking of building the deck some ideas to get into the deck. Yep, there's not much else to say. Just want to quickly point out this absolutely stunning mat that was given to me from my sponsors, Solar Pop and Unplug Yourself. I actually picked this up in person from Solar Pop and Unplug Yourself at Comic Con Africa. I went through yesterday and they gifted me with this. It's absolutely stunning mat. Obviously we have Yugi, Dark Magician Girl, and we've got Dark Magician there. Absolutely stunning mat. I think one of only two in South Africa, obviously me being from South Africa. And yeah, just thought I'd point that out and say huge shout outs to them and thanks to them. Then yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight into the deck profile. I will give some explanations to most of the cards, if not all of the cards, except for, some of the more generic cards that people already know. But let's get into it. So we are playing two of the lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle. Do not fret, ladies and gentlemen, I will be getting my collector's rares soon. I did initially want to max out this deck with all the collector's rares, but there are a ton of them, so I decided just to aim my focus onto just her, because she is my favorite card in the deck, and she is quite literally the best card in the deck, the boss monster of the deck. So her effect reads as a continuous effect. Your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to the activation of your normal trap cards, basically turning all your trap cards into spell speed 3 trap cards, which is insane counter traps. You can only use each of the following effects of lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle once per turn. You can target one normal trap in your graveyard, set it to your field, but it cannot be activated unless you control a fiend monster, which is usually the case because you'll control her. If another monsters leaves the field by your normal trap effect, except during the damage step, you can destroy one card in your opponent's hand at random or their field, non-targeting. So this card is absolutely insane, basically making all of your traps pop another card, making all of your traps +1s, which is insane, or being able to loop your opponent's hand and get key cards out of their hand and stop them from being able to play in their turn or their next turn. Absolutely insane card. 2/9, she's huge. If she was 3k, it would be just that little bit of a cherry on top, making her a little bit too hard to kill. A lot of cards obviously in the game have 3000, such as the Tier Elements Fusion, so I would have very much liked it to be 3000, but we take those. And yeah, she's absolutely insane. You cannot play one. I did try playing one. The thing with one is, once they get it off the field or once they banish it, you no longer really have a win con. And it is a card that I play in the main deck to help stop that from happening, that if both of these get banished, I still have monsters that are big enough so I can get my kill shots in. But yeah, you need to play two. There's very often times I would see one in hand, which isn't completely terrible, especially since the smaller monsters allow you to turbo them out of your hand in grave. So yeah, I think 2 is definitely correct. It also opens up a lot of OTK potential, so yeah, definitely 2 is the correct number. Perhaps when we get Lady, we cut her down to 1 and play 2 to 3 ladies, but we'll have to wait and see until we get Darkwing Blast. We are playing 2 of Arianna. She is the better of the 2 servants. I might as well show off the other servant as well. we're just playing one of Ariane. So Arianna is, if this card is normal special summon, you can add a Labyrinth card from your deck to your hand. Labyrinth card is very important, doesn't have to be a monster, doesn't have to be a trap or spell, except yourself. If another monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect, except during the damage step, you can draw a card. Then you can apply this effect. From your hand, either special summon one fiend monster, or you can set one spell or trap. Pretty much just making sure that your opponent knows that you have follow-up for next turn. And then you can only use one of Arianna, the Labyrinth Servants effects per turn. So if you welcome and you get her out and you use her effect to add, you can't use the effect to special and draw, obviously. Then Ariane is similar, but not really. She is when you can send one normal trap from your hand or that's set on your field to a graveyard, special summon one level 4 or lower fiend monster from your deck in defense position except herself. So this turbos out like a lot because it's completely generic. It can summon out any fiend, any level 4 or lower fiend, which is absolutely crazy. So I do think this card will see some potential play in future decks as a generic, fiend, turbo out card. If another monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect, very similar to Arianna, you can draw a card, then you can apply this effect, exactly the same as her. Special summon a fiend from your hand or set one spell or trap, and she is once per turn. We only play one of her because she's essentially a neg 1. You have to send a trap to be able to get that summon out, and it is ignition, it's not on summon, but it still allows for some interesting plays with some rank 4 plays. And if you have both of these on the field with traps that can remove monsters off of the field, then what ends up happening is you draw 2 cards, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, that's it for the Servants. A lot of people opt to play 3 of Arianna, and I can see why, but I chose to play a different monster in my main deck that essentially does the same thing she does, but is a lot thicker and has a lot more utility. Then we are playing the furniture in the form of 2 Torbys and 2 Chandragliers. These go in tangent with our Absolute King Backjacks. So this is like a little bit of an engine. I don't particularly know how I feel about this engine. In testing, it sometimes is absolutely phenomenal, other times it's very subpar. So essentially what they do is both of these have the exact same effect, where quick effect, you can discard themselves and one other card in your hand to set any Labyrinth spell or trap from your deck. Then they have different conditions for if a monster is removed from the field by a normal trap card, whereas Chandraglier comes back to your hand, Stovey summons itself. Stovey has 2000 defense and 0 attack, which means it is a target for Alice in the Lady of Lament deck, and Chandraglier is a level 3 Dark Fiend, which means there's also some synergy there with ties. The reason I bring that up is because I do think that is a build I want to try, and I do think that is a build that could potentially be the best version of this deck. For now, this is what we would consider the pure version. Now, the reason I show this package together is these are often discarded with your Backjack, which means you can actually activate a trap in turn 0, in your opponent's turn if you're going second. So when you discard the furniture with Backjack, you'll set your Labyrinth card, whether it's a field spell or the trap, that summons from your deck, depending on which one you have in hand, depending on what you need. Then the Backjack will trigger, making you, allowing you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back in any order, and because then it's your opponent's turn, you can simply banish the Backjack, set the trap that you stacked to the top, and use that in turn 0, which is absolutely phenomenal. This little engine has encouraged a lot of people to play things like Torrential Tribute, because you can then essentially wipe your opponent's entire board turn 0. The only issue I have with Torrential Tribute is in late game, it's also clearing your board, and unless you have the field spell, it makes it very difficult to start recurring your lovelies. We'll get to the field spell soon, but yeah, this engine is very, very strong in theory, and I am enjoying it. However, I do think maybe later on cutting the furniture to 1-in-1 and the Backjacks almost entirely for that Lair of Darkness engine that I was speaking about. Then for the last 2 monsters of the deck, I did decide to play 2 Lord of the Heavenly Prison in the main deck. Not a lot of main deck spell and trap removal, especially destruction. People, if they were to main spell and trap removal, it would be Cosmic Cyclones usually. However, this card does essentially what all of these cards do, except for Lovely, whereby on resolution, if it's revealed of summoning itself, it gets to to set any spell or trap from your deck, which is essentially what the Labyrinth cards do anyway. And although it isn't a fiend, you're never summoning this from your deck or extra deck, which is what you're locked into, which I'll explain a little bit later. But it's absolutely insane. Having a 3000 body, being able to just throw it down on the board without having it revealed, just to get some damage in. This card is phenomenal. In Layer of Darkness, I called it one of the win cons. It is. In this deck, I think it's not really a win con, but it's more of a backbone for the deck. It helps the deck function and gives it just that little bit more aggression that it needs. For now, obviously when Lady comes out, these could probably be replaced or even put alongside Lady, being able to actually OTK if you draw both. Then for our spell cards, we are playing one Called by the Grave. I am playing my classic Mystic Mine package in this deck. I'm playing the Mystic Mine and a Metaverse. Metaverse does have another target in the form of the field spell, which I'll get to now. But this, as long as we have Mystic Mine, we might as well abuse it as best we can. And then speaking of the field spell, here we go, we've got Labrynth, silly name, I know, absolutely stunning card. This card is what allows the deck to snowball to a point where your opponent can't play. So if you activate a set Welcome Labyrinth, which is the main trap card of the deck, you can add this additional effect to that card's effect at resolution. Also after that, destroy one card on the field, non-targeting. So essentially when this is up, your main summoner, basically your e-telly of the deck that's a trap card, gets an additional effect to also non-target pop card, which is insane. It's just free. Then, if you activate a non-Labyrinth normal trap card, except during the damage step, you can special summon one Fiend monster from your hand or graveyard. So this is the only Labyrinth card that I'm playing that summons a Fiend also from your graveyard, not only from your hand, as we saw the Servants summon from hand. And then you can only use each effect of Labyrinth once per turn. Then, of course, we are playing Extravagance. I personally believe in this version of the deck, the more pure version, where you are playing the furniture and backjacks. This is better than Prosperity, simply because you need that card advantage when you're discarding cards, and you're losing that advantage, per se. Same with Ariane, when you're sending that trap card from your hand or set on your field, you need the advantage. So I personally feel like this is the better of the two. In a perhaps less furniture, less pure version of the deck, Prosperity will probably be better, but personally from my experience right now, I do think Extravagance is better just because of that card advantage, and drawing two impactful traps sometimes is better than seeing one card that you maybe would have wanted to see. Then for our going second potential spell-wise, I am playing 3 Super Poly. Now this does conflict with the main trap of the deck, Welcome Labyrinth, after being locked into Fiends. However, I still feel like it's necessary because this is a trap deck, and because you want to go first. When you go second, you need to play the absolute most blowout going second card you can. This, alongside the Mystic Mine, are the best options. Obviously, I'm only playing the one mine for that metaverse, but it does come up sometimes where, you go Super Poly, summon something, crash your monster, Mystic Mine, and then you can just gain advantage from there until you get to a point where you can eventually kill them. So I do think it's definitely worth playing, especially with tier elements in the meta, and, some bad sprite players. It gives you a lot of opportunities to just clear the board. Then for traps, the only non-normal trap we play is 3 Strike, and this is to ensure that your Welcome resolves as well as anything else that you need to resolve, and just being able to stop what you need to in order to snowball and carry on playing. Then we are playing the 3 Welcome Labyrinth. So spoken quite a lot about this card for not having read it yet, but essentially, like I said, this is the e-telly of the deck. It special summons 1 Labyrinth monster from your deck, and also until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the deck or extra deck except Fiend monsters. It's essentially like Dogmatic Punishment, but instead of locking you entirely, it locks you just into Fiends. If a monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect while this card is in your graveyard, very much similar to the Furnitures, you can then set this card, and you can only use each effect once per turn. And that's it for Welcome Labyrinth. So that's obviously the blood of the deck, essentially. You need that card. Then for our removal traps, our normal traps, this is absolutely the best one. This card is insane. It allows you to play through things like evenly matched, but also being able to just target some monster, bounce back to hand, get rid of it, trigger all your stuff, trigger your lovely. It's absolutely awesome. It's the best trap for this deck. Other best traps for this deck are, of course, Dogmatic Punishment, being able to get rid of not only one but two monsters in certain cases when you send your Entis, but also locking out of the extra deck, which you never use. Then the other hard ones per turn, because they are hard ones per turn, we're only playing 2 of each. Ice Dragon's Prison. There is a card in the side deck that conflicts with this, and actually conflicts with Dogmatic Punishment, but these are the best removal cards that don't just give it back to their hand or give it back to their deck so that they can use it again. These cards, in my mind, completely get rid of the issue. And then the final two, which can actually be a ton of different trap cards. I'm playing 2 Paleozoic Dynamiscus. I have a lot of love for this card, obviously being able to play it in things like Burning Abyss and Paleo Frogs. I decided to put it into this deck, but other cards you can also play are Terrors of the Overroot, as well as I believe it's something Ledgers, where targets 2 monsters, banishes them until the end phase, and then they gain 1,000 for each one you banished, which doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because you're getting rid of 2 bodies that they then can't use for whatever they need to. That card is absolutely insane. It does absolutely destroy the Spite matchup, and it does slow down the tier matchup quite significantly. But for now, I just thought this was best, hitting Gigantic, hitting your Kit Callus, and then also being able to trigger things like your Backjack, or even just sending furniture, and then because you resolve the trap, you can then just add it back. So yeah, this is what I decided to play. And then that's it for the main deck. Clean 40 cards. I don't think I would go any higher because of consistency reasons, but I don't know, maybe 41, considering we are playing 2 of the Lovelies. Then for our extra deck, we are playing the 1 Omega. This is actually just as a recurring Dogmatic Punishment target, but also we are playing Gammas in the side. Sometimes we can make this and then we can loop cards out of our opponent's hand, which is absolutely insane. Then we have Baguska, so this is the play that I was talking about with Ariane, where you can summon Arianna, add a Welcome Labyrinth, and then make a Baguska, which is absolutely insane. Then you can stun your opponent during their turn, and then at the end phase you can summon out your Lovely, turn this to attack, and then your Lovely is live. It doesn't come up often, but it's a good tech to have in case you do resolve that Ariane. Obviously, Arianna and Ariane are very susceptible to hand traps, so it's quite difficult to resolve them. For our Super Poly targets, we're playing 2 Garura and 2 Mud Dragon of the Swamp. I kind of want to play 3 Garura just because of the Extrav, and actually it does come up as a punishment target and actually late game with Super Poly, I found. But for now, the 2 and 2 ratio has been working for me. We are playing the 2 Entis. The Omega could technically be the 3rd Entis, but because we're playing the Gamma, I thought might as well play the Omega. We are playing the 1 Underworld Goddess as a Dogmatic Punishment target, 3,000 attack, but also to be able to out those really, really big things. B-Cop from the Underworld. This is just randomly when you want to get bodies off of your board, because you can recur them, and it's just a good effect in general where you can protect something, whether it's your field spell or your Lovely, and it is a Fiend, so that lock from Welcome doesn't hurt you. Speaking of the lock, we play Nightmare Phoenix, just generic removal. Back row decks technically don't... It's weird, like back row decks are good against back row decks, and that's the same with this deck, where it's good against things like Old Lich, it's good against things like Dynamorphia, it's good into the Mirror, especially if you go first, but having that removal that is a Fiend is, I think, necessary. And then obviously for our backjacks, when we are forced to normal summon them, we've got the going first option and we've got the going second option. Extravagance is kind of weird. Sometimes you banish all of these and then you're a bit stuck. So I think it could probably be worthwhile playing more of these, especially with extravagance. But sometimes if you get rid of them, you have these 2 as well to link 2s into and get the backjacks off the field anyway. And that's it for the extra deck. And then for the side deck, we are of course playing the 3 Shifter. I'm not playing this in main because it does actually conflict. I'm sure, as you can tell from my description of the effects, there are a couple of things that work with the Grave, and if you've resolved Shifter and they out your Lovely, you are in a tough pickle, because now you need to rely on getting the second one out, and if they get rid of that one, it becomes a bit difficult to play. So I think as a side card, it's definitely better than a main card. If you're going into a tournament and there's going to be meta everywhere, maybe it's worth maining over the Super Polys, but because it conflicts with your deck as well, it's not great. And I'll only ever put these in going second. If I know I can go first, I'd rather keep them out. Then, speaking of going second and actually going first, Gamma's absolutely insane in this deck, protecting your welcome, like I said, and going second, you know, hitting some really crucial cards and slowing down the opponents is also very significant. Then we are playing the other two Mystic Mines for going second. Usually this isn't really a great strategy because at this point they'll know you're playing back row and they'll have in all the outs, but it is worth playing because it sometimes can slow you down, your opponent down, and because your deck does not rely on Mystic Mine like some of the meta decks where you drop mine, build your hand, and then build a board and kill them. It's more like you're playing this, if they out this, you then have 5 trap cards to stop them as well. So yeah. 3 evenly matched for the other back row decks, but also for things like Tier Elements and, you know, build a board decks. So yeah, definitely that. And then finally 3 Solemn Judgments to put in when you know you're going first. Pretty I guess standard would be the best way of calling that side deck for a trap deck anyway. And yeah, that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. This is a deck I've been working on with my good friend Ronan Bradley. Him and I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh when we were in, I think, early high school, primary school, and I can definitely say it's because of him I've, you know, kept the passion for Yu-Gi-Oh. And yeah, this deck is absolutely stunning. Him and I have been theory crafting pretty much every week what the best build is, and I just decided to settle on a pure build just until we get Lady, and then, you know, possibilities can open up for different variants of the deck. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this deck profile, and this is Future Knight signing out.